"Sis, I used your credit cards to buy my dream house," Sarah said excitedly over the phone. "Mom and Dad said you'd understand. You've always been the responsible one. It's my turn to have something nice." I stood in my tiny studio apartment, staring at the credit alert messages flooding my phone. "I'm Emma Thompson, I'm 29, and for the past 10 years, I've worked hard to build excellent credit, paying every bill on time, keeping debt low, while climbing from intern to senior financial analyst at Morris & Wade investment firm." "Congratulations," I said, keeping my voice calm though my hands were shaking. "When's the housewarming party?" "This Saturday. You'll be there, right? I mean, you kind of have to, you basically paid for it." Sarah laughed, that same laugh she's always had, the one that always got her out of trouble with our parents. After the call, I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and checked the damage. Sarah had maxed out all 3 of my credit cards, $45,000 total, on the same day. It was all for a down payment on a house in the suburbs, the kind of place I'd been saving for while living in this small studio. My phone buzzed again, this time. "Mom." "Emma, sweetie, don't be mad at Sarah, she really needed this. You know she's been trying so hard since she quit her job to become an influencer. This house will be perfect for her content." I closed my eyes, thinking of all the times my parents excused Sarah's actions. When she took my college fund for her failed boutique. When she totaled my car and got my insurance cancelled. Every time, it was the same story: "Be understanding, Emma, Sarah's following her dreams. You're the responsible one, you can handle it." But this time was different. This time, I had proof, and a plan. 6 months ago, after Sarah tried to take a loan in my name, I installed security cameras in my apartment. I had video of her breaking in, digging through my desk, and finding my credit cards. I also had emails from my parents telling me Sarah might need help and to not give her a hard time. More importantly, I had leverage. My job wasn't just about numbers. I'd spent years building relationships with real estate experts and quietly planning my own investments. And the house Sarah bought with my credit? It was part of a project I had helped design. The realtor was a coworker's wife. The property manager, my college roommate. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw a new Instagram post from Sarah. "Dreams do come true, can't wait to show everyone my new home this Saturday. #NewChapter #DreamHouse." I smiled, took a screenshot, and added it to my evidence folder. Then I made 3 calls, to my lawyer, to the real estate agent, and to RSVP to the party. The next few days flew by. Sarah flooded social media with photos of furniture shopping and quotes about manifesting your dreams. My parents called, switching between guilt trips and trying to justify it all. "Emma, you need to sign some papers for Sarah's mortgage," my dad said during one call. "It's just a formality, she's good for it." "Sure, Dad," I replied. "I'll bring everything to the party." Saturday came, sunny and bright. I parked my small car on a street full of fancy ones. Inside, Sarah floated around the room in a designer dress, laughing with guests. Mom and Dad stood nearby, proud as ever. "Emma," Sarah called, hugging me like she hadn't just stolen from me. "Isn't it amazing? I'll pay you back once my blog takes off. Mom and Dad said you're fine waiting, right?" I hugged her and smiled. "I actually brought you a gift, a housewarming surprise." Her face lit up. She loved gifts, especially ones she didn't have to pay for. "Really? You didn't have to. I mean, you already got me the house," she joked. "Oh, but I wanted to," I said, reaching into my bag. "Let's get everyone together. Mom, Dad, come here. I think the whole family should see this." My parents exchanged worried looks but came over. They knew that tone. It was the same one I used when I found out Sarah had stolen my college fund, meaning I wasn't going to just let this go. As guests gathered around, I pulled out a manila envelope. "Sarah, you always say family shares everything, right? That we should help each other?" She nodded, excited. "Exactly, that's why I knew you wouldn't mind about the cards. We're sisters." "Well," I said, laying items out on the fancy table. "Here's something I want to share with you." One by one, I placed the documents down. Photos from the security footage of her breaking into my apartment. Credit card statements showing the charges. Emails from Mom and Dad. Sarah's Instagram post, with timestamp. And finally, documents linking me to the housing project, the real estate company, and the property itself. Sarah's face turned from happy to confused, then terrified. Mom gasped and clutched her purse. Dad opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. I'm not finished. I took out one last paper, a letter from my lawyer. It spelled out the charges Sarah could face: credit card fraud, identity theft, and breaking into my home. It also listed how my parents could be held responsible for helping her. You didn't just use my credit, I said calmly. You used it to buy a house and a project I'm tied to. Every form, every signature, it all went across my desk eventually. Sarah went pale. Mom stepped forward, her usual excuse ready. Emma, don't be dramatic. Sarah just needed help. No, Mom, I said. Sarah needs consequences, and you and Dad need to stop letting her get away with everything. I looked back at Sarah, who had collapsed into one of her new chairs, her party unraveling. So here's what's going to happen, I said. You have two choices: either face criminal charges, or... I paused, letting it sink in. Sarah's eyes were wide, scared, all her confidence had vanished. Or, I said, you can sign these papers. I pulled out another stack. They give the house to me, since my credit paid for it, and include a confession from you, plus a plan for paying me back every dollar. You can't do this, Sarah whispered, but even she didn't sound like she believed it. Mom, Dad, tell her she can't. But they were silent for once. Maybe they finally realized guilt and excuses wouldn't fix this. Around us, guests had moved aside, quietly watching everything happen. I actually can, I said. You have until the end of the party to decide. Choose wisely. Then I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Before leaving, I looked around the house Sarah thought was her big win. Oh, and Sarah, consider this the last gift I'll ever give you. Family helps family, remember? I heard her crying behind me, but for once, I didn't turn back. I wasn't cleaning up her mess this time. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone is let them deal with what they've done. The next morning, my phone blew up with alerts. Sarah had posted teary Instagram stories all night, talking about betrayal and forgiveness, trying to look like the victim. Each post was full of drama and sad selfies. I drank my coffee and watched the chaos from my phone. My parents had called 17 times, leaving messages full of guilt and begging. Emma, please, my mom said in one. We can fix this as a family. Sarah made a mistake, but she's your sister. Think about her future. I thought about my own future, the one I worked hard for while Sarah lived off excuses and second chances. On my laptop, the video of her breaking into my place was still open. It reminded me, this wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. At noon, my lawyer Diana called. The papers are ready, she said, calm but with a slight smile. Has your sister agreed yet? Not yet, I said, but she will. She's never had real consequences before. Jail time might finally scare her. A knock came at my door. I looked through the peephole. It was my dad, looking serious like when I was a kid. I'll call you back, I told Diana. I opened the door and stood in the way. Dad. Emma, he said, trying to peek into my apartment. We need to talk about this mess with your sister. Mess? I raised my eyebrow. You mean credit card fraud? He looked uncomfortable. You know what I mean. Sarah's a wreck. She had to delete all her house posts. Her followers are asking questions. This could ruin her online career. Her career? I laughed. Dad, she committed crimes. That should matter more than her social media. Don't be so dramatic, he said. You want to talk drama? I asked. Let's talk about the emails you and Mom sent, encouraging her to use my cards. How about when you tried to trick me into signing mortgage forms? Want me to get Diana on the line and go over what that means legally? When I said my lawyer's name, he froze. I saw fear flicker in his eyes. You wouldn't really press charges against your sister, he said softly. Why not? She didn't hesitate to steal from me. You didn't hesitate to help her. He rubbed his face, suddenly looking older. The dad who always took Sarah's side now looked unsure. What do you want? He finally asked. I want Sarah to sign the papers, I said. I want her to take responsibility, and I want you and Mom to stop protecting her. If you don't, I showed him the folder full of proof on my phone, then the law will handle it. He didn't say a word as he left, but I knew this wasn't the end. Sarah never handled consequences well, and my parents never stopped shielding her. And I was right. That evening, she showed up at my job. She was crying, dressed in expensive clothes, trying to look heartbroken. Emma, please, she sobbed, ignoring the curious glances from my coworkers. I know I messed up, but I can't go to jail. What about my followers, my brand? I took her to a private room. I stayed calm as she kept crying. Your brand? I said quietly. You mean the one you built while living with mom and dad, using money you didn't earn? That's not fair, she said. I'm trying to make something of myself. You've always had it so easy, your good job, your perfect credit score. Some of us have to take risks to succeed. I opened my laptop and played the video. Breaking into my place is a risk now? She went quiet, watching herself dig through my desk and hold up my credit cards. Here's the truth, Sarah, I said. I don't care about your image or your fans. I care about what you did. You stole from me, so you can either sign the papers or deal with the police. Your choice. She tried one last time, weakly, maybe not. I agree, you had choices. You just picked the wrong one, and now you get to face the results. After she left, I got more texts from our mom. Each one was full of guilt. Your sister is crying every night. How can you be this cruel? We raised you better. I finally replied with one message. You raised me better than theft. Pity you didn't do the same for Sarah. That night, I went over the paperwork with Diana. She noticed something in the house records. Your parents took a second mortgage on their house last week, she said, right after Sarah used your credit cards. Let me guess, I said. They were going to slowly pay it off without telling me, hoping I wouldn't catch on. Exactly, Diana said. This wasn't just Sarah acting out. It was a plan, and they left you out of it. I thought of all the family events I missed to save money, all the times they said, Emma will understand, while Sarah got whatever she wanted. Send me everything, I told Diana, every email, every file, every note. It's time my family learns what understanding really looks like. Understanding doesn't mean accepting abuse. When I ended the call, my phone lit up with a message from Sarah. No tears, no drama, just 2 words that told me she finally understood. I'll sign. The signing was set for 10 a.m. at Diana's office. I got there early and looked out through the tall windows as dark clouds rolled over the skyline, fitting weather for what was coming. Sarah arrived 13 minutes late, with our parents at her sides like guards. She wore a plain black dress, dressed down for pity, but I noticed that old glint in her eye, the one that always meant she thought she had the upper hand. Before we begin, she said, pulling out a folder, I have something for Emma. Diana began to interrupt, but I raised my hand. Go ahead. Sarah spread the papers across the table with flair. Remember when you helped fund my first business, that boutique? You signed this. She pointed to a document with my signature. You agreed to be the guarantor for all my ventures, past, present, future, so if I go down, you go down with me. Mom looked smug. Dad crossed his arms, clearly pleased with the ambush. I picked up the paper, examined the signature. Sarah kept talking about family loyalty and how we'd all suffer together. When she finally paused, I looked at Diana and gave a quiet nod. Diana opened her laptop and turned it to face them. On the screen, video footage from 6 years ago, Sarah in my old apartment, sitting at my desk, copying my signature again and again, getting better with each try. I knew, I said, I've known for years, every fake document, every forged signature, every plan, you left a trail. Why do you think I installed cameras? Sarah's smirk faded. You're bluffing. That's not from October 15, 2019. I cut her off. You broke into my place while I was at work. You used my printer, practiced my name, and left enough evidence to make your influencer career into a documentary. I have it all, including you stealing my credit card last week. I turned to my parents, and I have your messages, every one of them, planning how to hide the theft, talking about how to convince me. This wasn't just Sarah, it was all of you. Why didn't you stop her? Mom's voice shook. If you knew, then why didn't you say anything? Because I needed to see how far you'd go, I said. Apparently, all the way. Diana slid the actual transfer papers across the table. We've added your attempted blackmail to our file, she said. Now, shall we continue with the agreement, or would you prefer court? Sarah's hands trembled. Her plan had failed, and she knew it. Dad finally spoke. Sign them, it's over. I gave a small smile. We tried it your way. He sighed. It didn't work. Sign before your sister decides jail is easier. Sarah looked at the papers, then at me. For the first time, she realized no one was coming to save her. She signed. The signature was shaky, uncertain, and finally her own. As Diana notarized everything, Mom whispered one last try. Emma, please, we can fix this. We'll work together. No, I said. This isn't about money anymore. It's about consequences. Sarah looked up, quiet. What do you want from me? To grow up, I said. To stop expecting others to pay for your mistakes. And to understand that family doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. I gathered my papers and nodded to Diana. The house goes up for sale next week. The proceeds pay my debts and legal fees. Whatever's left goes towards Sarah's repayment. She has 5 years. If she misses one, I press charges. And her online career becomes a fraud case. That's the deal. Just like always, her choice. I walked out, hearing Mom cry and Dad trying to comfort Sarah. For once, their pain wasn't mine to fix. Outside, the clouds finally broke. Sunlight streamed through the skyline. I looked up and felt something I hadn't in years: peace. 1 year later, I stood outside the house that started it all. A sold sign rocked gently in the spring breeze. The sale had cleared my debts and left Sarah with a smaller balance to repay. My phone buzzed with a text. Made this month's payment early. Just wanted you to know. She'd made every payment on time. She'd taken a real job at a marketing firm. No shortcuts, no schemes, just work. Losing the house had forced her to grow up. I replied, received, thank you. Our relationship wasn't the same. Too much had happened, but it was honest now. That was enough. Mom and Dad had changed, too. The first few months were hard, guilt trips, tearful voicemails, but when they saw I wouldn't fold, something shifted. I started seeing a therapist. Dad told me at our first coffee in 6 months. She's helping me understand how we failed you, and why we protected Sarah so much. Mom took longer. Last week, she left a message I kept replaying. I'm sorry, Emma, not just for what Sarah did, but for all the times we made you feel like your boundaries didn't matter. You deserved better. We never used the evidence Diana saved, just the threat of it was enough. The house's new owners were a young family with 2 kids. I sometimes saw them playing in the yard. It felt right. A place meant for illusion had become a real home. My life changed, too. I got the promotion, Chief Investment Officer. You handled that property situation like a pro, my boss had said. Smart, strategic, unshakable. I bought a condo overlooking the city. No cameras this time. I didn't need them. The people who might hurt me had already been unmasked. Sarah's influencer career changed. She talked openly about debt, healing, and setting boundaries. Ironically, her honesty got her more respect than the fake house ever did. One post even made sense. Real love doesn't mean losing yourself. Learn to draw the line. My coworker James mentioned it over lunch. As I stood outside the house one last time, I felt closure. My phone buzzed, a dinner reminder. Just me and my parents. No Sarah, no drama. We'd rebuilt something, not what we had before, but something real. They even started paying back their share of the money. We want to make it right, Dad said. Not just with money, with everything. As I turned to leave, I caught my reflection in a car window. I looked stronger, clearer, like someone who finally chose herself. Mom once asked if I regretted pressing charges. Wasn't that too harsh? She'd said. I told her the truth. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the consequences. Sarah needed it, so did they. I started the car and glanced at the house in my rearview mirror. The sold sign shimmered in the light like a quiet victory. A year ago, this place represented everything that broke me. Now, it reminded me of what saved me: boundaries, truth, and the power to walk away. My phone buzzed again. Diana, dinner next week? Thinking of writing a book on financial abuse in families. Your story could really help. I texted back, count me in. Because the best revenge isn't success. It's helping others find their power, too.